Josh Earnest took over as press secretary back in 2014. He's delivered more than 350 briefings in that role. Thank you very much. He's confronted and engaged reporters on a wide range of issues, from Iran to healthcare and even award shows.
During his final briefing yesterday, his boss gave him a surprise send-off.
He is not only a great press secretary, but more importantly, he is a really, really good man. And I'm really, really proud of him. So, Josh, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Josh Earnest joins us this morning from the White House briefing room with our own Charlie Rose. Good morning to you both.
Thank you, Nora. You're surprised yesterday, Josh. Good to have you here this morning.
Nice to see you.
Surprised when the president comes in.
I was.
And not only what he said, but this is also what he said beyond the fact that you were his friend. He said he's just got that all-American matinee, good-looking thing going. That's helpful. Let's face it, a face made for television.
Listen, to have the president come out here yesterday was such a humbling experience, and I have so much respect for him, both as a president of the United States, but also as a man himself, somebody who takes care of his family, has fulfilled his responsibilities to the country, has got a clear vision for where he believes the country needs to go. I've been so inspired by him. I admire him so much. That's why his compliments meant so much to me yesterday.
Let's talk about some important decisions. The Chelsea Manning decision.
Yeah.
It's controversial. You heard
Sure.
what Paul Ryan said, and John McCain,
Yeah.
even the Secretary of Defense, is said to have opposed it. Was this a decision that the president took with careful consideration?
Yes.
And was he concerned about how people might take it the wrong way?
Well, I think President Obama was interested in making sure that justice was served. And what you have in the case of Chelsea Manning is a young woman who has acknowledged that she committed crimes. She took responsibility for committing those crimes. She expressed remorse for committing those crimes, and has spent most of the last 7 years behind bars at Leavenworth. So I think it'd be hard-pressed to make the case that somehow the justice system went easy on her. But I got to tell you, Charlie, the thing that I think is outrageous is for Republicans to say that somehow Chelsea Manning deserves a more serious punishment because of her collusion with WikiLeaks and its damage to the country, when they endorsed a man for president of the United States who praised WikiLeaks, who encouraged people to go and check out WikiLeaks, and who encouraged WikiLeaks to collude with the Russians to hack his opponent. It is outrageous for them to suggest that somehow right now that what Chelsea Manning did is worse than what the man who they endorsed for president did.
Is there any connection? There's this speculation that somehow Julian Assange will be released because of what happened here.
Yeah. Well, listen, right now, Julian Assange is somebody who's on the lam from authorities in Europe, and he's holed up in an embassy. I can't speak to any of
He
the
had
status
no
of his
connection
criminal
to
charges.
this decision.
I can tell you that Mr. Assange's comments had no bearing whatsoever on this decision by the President of the United States, right, or his future. There's nothing that Mr. Assange could say or do that would have any impact on the President's decision in this case to make sure that justice was well served.
Nora, Gail?
Gail?
Hey, Josh, you said yesterday, Josh, good to see you. I love Charlie's
Hi, Gail.
beginning with you about the matinee good looks, because I picked up on that too. And he also, the president said that you were a man of great integrity and that you were just a good man. I sensed yesterday, Josh, you seem to feel a little nostalgic when you've had some dust-ups with the press. How are you feeling? Were you feeling nostalgic yesterday?
Yeah, it's hard not to feel nostalgic around here over the last couple of weeks. Certainly, the president's farewell address that he delivered to the country in Chicago just over a week ago, I think really sort of kicked off a couple weeks of nostalgia around here. This has been an amazing run, and it has been a remarkable opportunity that I've had to serve a president that I so deeply believe in. And you know, one of my principal responsibilities around here has been to try to manage the relationship between the White House press corps and the White House. And it's not been entirely friendly, but there's supposed to be friction in that relationship. The day that the White House press corps walks into my office and says, we're totally satisfied with what you guys have been doing.
You're not doing your job.
That's right. It's the day that you guys aren't doing your job.
And now they're talking about moving the White House press corps, Josh, to a different location. How do you feel about that?
Well, listen,
to the
I think
executive office building.
Having the most effective, experienced, informed press corps in the world, located in the West Wing, in a position to hold people accountable directly, is really good for our democracy. That kind of accountability made President Obama a better president, and I think that's a system that's worth protecting.
Here's a question. John Kerry has announced he's not coming to the inauguration. Are there any other cabinet members from this administration or high officials that are not attending the inauguration of President-elect Donald Trump.
I have to admit, I don't know what the plans are for all the cabinet officials on Friday. I know President Obama and his wife will obviously be there.
But how does the president feel about that? His Secretary of State not respecting the new president.
Yeah, well, listen, I can't speak to Secretary Kerry's plans, and I'm not sure what went into them. I don't know if I don't know the reasoning for his decision. What I can tell you is that it should be pretty obvious to everybody that President Obama has profound political differences with the incoming president. But after the election, President Obama instructed all of us to set aside our own personal feelings and fulfill our institutional responsibility to the American people, to set aside those feelings and ensure that the next administration can get off to a running start. And we have engaged in a transition process with them that has lived up to that promise and lived up to that aspiration. And President Obama's participation in the inaugural ceremonies on Friday, I think, will be the culmination of that effort to put the country's interests ahead of his own personal political views.
Two things. Number one, there's a new poll out this morning shows that he's back at 60%, the highest rating this president's had since 2009. Secondly, he's having his last press conference. Should we expect anything surprising?
Well, listen, I think part of the reason that the president wants to have a final press conference and the reason he's going to be standing here in just a few hours is that he wants to bid a farewell to the White House press corps and to show them the respect that he believes that they have earned for the role that they have played in his administration over the last 8 years. And again, it's not because he's been pleased with all of the stories and all of the coverage of his administration, but rather because he believes that the work that they do is so critical to the success of our democracy. And the president believes that that relationship and that role is worth respecting, and he's going to pay respect to it right here at this podium around 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Thank you, Josh. Good to have you here.
Josh, one more thing. How often do President Obama and President-elect Trump speak? Do they speak on a regular basis?
They don't have a set schedule for their conversations, but since the day after the election, they've had an opportunity to speak with some frequency. And
so would you say more than 15 or 20 times?
Probably not quite that many, but you know what I can tell you is that you know I know that the president-elect indicated that they spoke earlier this week, and they've had an open line of communication, and that again is consistent with the president's view that he wants to do everything that he can to ensure that Mr. Trump and his administration can get off to a running start. And you know, one of the things that that President Obama has indicated is that there's a difference between campaigning and governing, and he wants to make sure that the president-elect has a good feel for all of the factors that went into the governing decisions that President Obama has made over the years.
Okay.
So as the president-elect begins to assume this responsibility, he can understand that context.
Thank you for joining us here this morning.
Thank you, Charlie.
In your place.
Yes.
Back to you, Gail.
All right, Josh Earnest, good luck with your next chapter. Charlie, we're not done because you're going to join us in our next half hour with his interview. He's in Washington, by the way, to interview outgoing National Security Advisor Susan Rice. He did that yesterday. She'll take a look at some of the biggest dangers that this country faces.